You already hit your number once. You just don't remember it. Not the number you dream about, the retirement account fantasy, the I'll feel safe when I have X number. Not that one. A smaller number, a quieter one. The one your brain decided without asking you was enough to relax. Maybe it was $3,000 in checking. Maybe it was $10,000. Maybe it was just seeing the first digit flip from a 1 to a 2. Whatever it was, the moment you crossed it, something in you exhaled. And then, almost without noticing, you spent your way back down to it. You didn't even enjoy most of what you bought. This isn't a story about discipline. It's not about willpower or cutting out the subscriptions you forgot you had. What's happening inside your head is older than money, more automatic than habit, and it has a name that nobody ever tells you, which means you've been living inside it without ever knowing it exists. Picture it, it's a Wednesday evening and your direct deposit just hit. You check your balance before you even get out of bed. The number is good. Better than usual, actually. You were careful last month, you skipped the trip, you ate at home more than you didn't. Your shoulders drop about 2 inches. Some part of your nervous system files a report. We're fine. And that report matters more than you know, because what happens next is almost involuntary. You text someone about dinner. You add something to your cart you'd been putting off. You say yes to the birthday thing you were on the fence about. None of these decisions feel like decisions. They feel like living. And they are, but they're also something else. They're your brain spending down what it just registered as extra. By the next paycheck, the number is back where it always is. Not broken, not overdrafted, just back at the floor. The floor you never decided was your floor. You've been here before, probably a dozen times. The number rises, something loosens in you, the number falls. And every time it falls back, the feeling you name is bad with money. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is that you are exactly as good with money as your brain decided to be, at a level you never consciously set. Here's what's actually running in the background. There's a concept in behavioral economics called the aspiration-satiation cycle. Researchers started mapping it seriously in the early 2000s. The idea is that human motivation operates between 2 poles: aspiration, the drive toward a goal, and satiation, the feeling of having reached it. The problem is that satiation isn't tied to your actual goal. It's triggered by a proxy, a feeling, a number on a screen that your brain has quietly decided is close enough. Think about how a thermostat works. It's not trying to heat the whole house forever. It has a set point. The room hits the set point, the heat turns off. The room cools below the set point, the heat kicks back on. Your brain runs the same loop with money, except you never programmed the thermostat. Your environment did it for you, your upbringing, your first job, the apartment you couldn't afford but almost could, the baseline your peer group normalizes. Your comfort ceiling isn't a number you chose. It's a number that was assembled from everything around you, and then installed without your knowledge. This isn't a character flaw. Daniel Kahneman's work on what he called psychological reference points showed that human beings don't evaluate outcomes in absolute terms. We evaluate them relative to a reference point we've anchored ourselves to. When you're below your reference point, you're loss-averse, anxious, motivated. When you're at or above it, the urgency collapses. The heat turns off. The thermostat doesn't know you wanted more. It just knows you're warm. The trap isn't spending. The trap is the set point. In 2018, a study out of Purdue University and the University of Virginia used data from over 1.7 million people across 164 countries to try to nail down the income number that actually correlates with emotional well-being. The headline finding, that there was a point at which more money stopped making people happier, got covered everywhere, but the part almost nobody talked about was why. The researchers noted that once people hit their satiation threshold, their behavior changed in ways that actively prevented further accumulation. Lifestyle expansion, social comparison that ratcheted upward. The ceiling was real, and the people who hit it didn't break through, they redecorated under it. There's a documented version of this in lottery research, too. not the myth that lottery winners return to baseline happiness. That particular study has been mostly contested since. The real finding is simpler and stranger. Winners who have no prior framework for managing larger sums often recreate their pre-lottery financial life at a higher scale. Same debt-to-income ratio, same month-to-month stress, same feeling of not quite enough. The number changes, the ceiling moves up with it. You've seen this in real life in a different way. Think about someone you know who got a raise, a real one, a meaningful one, and within 8 months was somehow complaining about money again. Not because they're irresponsible, because their comfort ceiling quietly repriced itself to match the new normal. The gap between income and setpoint is what generates financial momentum. Close that gap and the engine shuts off. Here's the question that should be bothering you right now. What if your ceiling has been the problem all along, not your income? This is where it gets a little uncomfortable. Most financial advice operates on the assumption that your problem is behavior. Spend less, save more, invest the difference. And that's true, technically, but it skips a step. It assumes your intentions are correct and your actions are the problem. What if it's the opposite? What if your actions are perfectly rational given the thermostat your brain is running, and the thermostat is the thing that's broken? The ceiling doesn't feel like a ceiling from the inside. It feels like being reasonable. It feels like, I work hard, I deserve this. It feels like, I'm not being irresponsible, I'm just living. And those feelings aren't wrong, they're just being generated at exactly the wrong threshold. At the threshold your environment set for you before you had any idea what you were worth or what you were capable of. The belief that changes everything isn't, I need more discipline. It's this. Your comfort ceiling is a setting you can change, but only if you first accept that someone else installed it. That's the quiet revelation in the middle of all of this. You've been behaving like a person with a certain relationship to money not because that's who you are, but because your reference point was set at a level that made that behavior feel natural. The moment you treat that set point as data rather than identity, something measurable, something external, something installed without your consent, you stop defending it. So what do smart people actually do with this? Not the textbook stuff. Not automate your savings, you've heard that. Not track every purchase, you've tried that. The specific move that works against the aspiration-satiation cycle is something researchers call reference point disruption, and in practice it looks like this. You create a second number. Not a goal, a new floor. You take the amount your brain has decided is enough to relax, and you build a system that makes that amount invisible, not inaccessible, invisible. Move it to a separate account that isn't on your main banking screen. Give it a different name, not savings, which your brain hears as deprivation, but something forward-facing. Next phase, exit number, a specific goal. The account you check every morning. That balance should never include it. Your thermostat needs to be calibrated to a lower visible number so the urgency doesn't switch off. This is different from budgeting. Budgeting is telling yourself no. This is redesigning the signal your brain receives so the enough trigger never fires or fires at a higher level. You're not fighting your instincts, you're redirecting them. The second thing, and this one is stranger, is to deliberately make financial discomfort harder to relieve quickly. Not forever. Just a 48-hour gap between the impulse to spend and the ability to execute it. Because the aspiration-satiation cycle is fast. The moment the account looks good, the spending impulse is nearly immediate. A 48-hour rule on any discretionary purchase above a number you pick breaks the automatic loop. It doesn't stop the spending. It just forces the decision to be a decision. Those two moves together don't require discipline. They require architecture. There's something worth sitting with before this ends. You have probably crossed your number, your current comfort ceiling, and dropped back below it more times than you can count. Every time it happened, you explained it as something about you. Your choices, your discipline, your relationship with money. And some of that is true, but mostly you were a thermostat responding to its set point. Right on time. Right on cue. The ceiling isn't a ceiling because you can't get past it. It's a ceiling because you've never raised the set point. You've been playing the game at the level someone else calibrated, with stakes someone else chose, hitting a target you didn't know was there. That number your account keeps falling back to, it's not your floor, it's a setting, and settings can be changed.